Hello everybody, welcome back. This is your friend Trickman01, and today we're going to continue with our command videos, and we're going to look at arguments. And basically what an argument is basically specifies who you're targeting with your commands or your command blocks. So for example, something like this is something you can do with arguments. You can see when I stand here, the redstone light is not lit, but when I move here, it lights up, and I move back, and it's unlit. And that's a pretty basic use of it, but you know, you can see how this could be useful for, let's say, map makers and things of that nature, even if you're just trying to set up your own little area using command blocks. You know, automatic lighting or a door. You could actually make a door. Just one second. Music and sound. Music. You could actually make a door that will only open for you by using your name as an argument. And I'll actually show you how to do that in just a second. But the way this works is it's basically hooked up to this system over here. These two blocks aren't important. I was just kind of experimenting with something. And the way it works is this first block tests for a player within 5 blocks of the middle of that bullseye area. So anytime a player gets within 5 blocks of there, what it does is actually creates a redstone block right here, which you can't see very well, but if I was to do that, you'd be able to see. It'll actually put a redstone block there, and then when you step out of 5 blocks, it destroys, or actually replaces the redstone block with an air block. Destroying it would do something different. So you can see wireless redstone could also be a possibility with this command, but that's neither here nor there right now. So basically, let's look at the commands we use to execute that. So first we have our comparator clock here, constantly updating. Actually, before we do that, let's look at our arguments. Okay, so these top arguments are the most basic arguments in the game. Your X argument is going to be your X coordinate. Your Y will be your Y coordinate. Z will be Z coordinate. R is radius. And what that is just within so many blocks of wherever you specify, within the radius of so many blocks, within, if you're inside so many blocks of X, Y, Z coordinates. The minimum radius is the exact opposite if you are outside of a certain range of your X, Y, Z coordinates. M mode would be player's mode. And that's just whether the player's in survival, creative, or adventure. You could specify that with 1, 2, or 3. I'm sorry, 0, 1, or 2. 0 for survival, 1 for creative, and 2 for adventure. Oops, sorry. C is the number of players that the command is going to affect. So, for instance, when you use the @p, it by default selects 1 player, the closest player to wherever the command was executed, or wherever you specify with your XYZ coordinates and radius. But if you use the @p as your player selector and you do a C of 3, it'll actually select the 3 closest players. L is the maximum level of the player using experience points. Oops. I actually forgot to put this one down, but LM is actually the minimum level of player. Now I feel silly. Score underscore name is the maximum score of the player using the scoreboard system that we talked about in the last video. And you would actually replace name with the name of your score. And we'll get more into that one also. Score name min is the minimum score of the player. Again, you would replace name with the name of your objective. And you got to remember when you're replacing the name here that that part right there, you need to maintain capitalization with the score that you've put in the scoreboard, the objective you put in the scoreboard. The team argument checks for a player's team. So for example, it can check if a player is on the blue team or on the red team or not on the team at all or not on the blue team or not on the red team. We can look at that one a little bit more. Name will actually check for the player's name. And then of course we saw LM. Now by default, you don't have to do by default, if you just use these arguments, you don't have to use these letters. If you use X, Y, Z, and R as your 4 arguments, or your first 4 arguments rather, you don't have to use the letters for it. You can just do it in that format. In this video, I've used the letters just to make things a little bit easier to see, but you can actually replace this whole command with whoops. Gotta keep your commas though. And I think I deleted the negative sign. With this, and it does the exact same thing as the previous command just did. But I'm going to keep the arguments up with the letters for now, just to make things a little bit easier to look at when we look at them. So basically, the way this works is it's going to test for a player within 5 blocks of -41, 56, -15. And when that happens, this comparator, when that's true, this comparator will output a signal which will turn off this torch and power this repeater, which will power this block here. And this command block is going to set block at -42, 57, 24. It's going to set a redstone block with a data value of 0, and it's going to replace it. And this one actually wasn't in my command tutorial because I actually made that one in the snapshot that came out before this, and in the most recent snapshot they added this set block command. So I may go back and do a short 1-minute video or something about that. Basically what that does is right now there's an air block there, but when I go over here it actually summons a redstone block, and when I step out of the radius it replaces it with an air block again. So then what happens is when I leave the radius, this is constantly updating, so this statement here, if there's a player within there, will no longer be true. So this repeater depowers and this redstone torch powers, so it actually does the set block command for the same block that we just talked about, and it's going to replace it with an air block which has a data value of 0. I'm sorry, a tile ID of 0 with a data value of 0, and it's going to replace that as well. So you can kind of see that in action. So you can use really compact wireless redstone now. It's pretty cool. And so that's the first thing we're going to look at, the scoreboard system. The test4 command is going to be used a lot of times when map making, but you can also use other commands with arguments. So just for example, let's go ahead and try some of these other arguments. X, Y, Z, and radius, pretty self-explanatory like we just said. Radius minimum, so if we actually change this command over here to RM, what's going to happen is you can see that light is powered now, but when I get within 5 blocks it depowers, and the reason for that is because it's looking at the minimum radius, so it's making sure I'm farther away, more than 5 blocks away from this center tile right here, and it's actually looking at the block above this white quartz block. So it's with the RM argument, it's making sure I'm more than 5 blocks away from there. So as you can see, that's working just fine. let's see what else. M, the mode, the player's mode. So if we add the argument in here, M equals 0, and we'll go ahead and switch this back to just normal radius. You can see it's not going to light up when I go over here. But if I change my game mode to 0, let's go ahead and step outside. If I change my game mode to survival, it'll work again. Like I said, you saw it wouldn't work in creative, and if I actually change my game mode again to adventure, it will stop working as well. So that's what M does basically. So the way you could use that is in a adventure map, or let's say, for example, Seth Bling's Plants vs. No, not Plants vs. Zombies. His mini game with the zombies in it. For whatever reason, I'm having trouble thinking about it right now. He actually uses that command to keep people from the game mode command as part of one of the arguments to keep people from jumping into the play area with the zombies. I think it's called Blocks versus Zombies now that I think about it. So let's go ahead and go back into creative, and we'll remove that argument. What else? C equals number of players. So the way you would use that, you wouldn't actually use, you can use that one for a test4 command. But it's not very functional. But a better way to use that would be, let's say you have like a PvP minigame, for example, and you want to select 2 random players to duke it out in the middle of an arena. What you could do is you could do a command like this, where you would do, let's see, TP at R, and as you can see, R random target players. Open your arguments, C equals 2, and then you just do 0, 0, and then whatever coordinates you specify wherever you build your little fighting arena, and that would teleport 2 random players to those coordinates, and they could, fight it out. Uh-oh. I did something wrong. Oh, I see what I did wrong. I put 56 as the Z coordinate instead of the Y coordinate. So let's go ahead and just TP myself 0, 56, 0. So that's how you would use the number of players command. Or let's say maybe you're running a survival world where you want to just randomly give away a prize or something like that, or just some incentives or a gift or something to help certain players. Let's say maybe you want to give 5 random players a chest plate every so often, or something like that. What you could do, 303, you could do give at R, C equals 2, 303, 1, 0. And that would give 2 random players a chainmail chest plate. So the C command is more functional with, to me, randomness. The random players function. The L, the maximum level of the player, is just basically exactly what it sounds like. So let's go into survival. So let's go ahead and add the L function. L equals 5. go back into creative for a second. We'll add the function again. Whoops. L equals 5, and then we'll go back into survival, which you don't actually have to be in survival for this to work. I just want to see my experience bar. So when you're watching now, you can see it's going to light up since I have less than 5 levels. But if I was to give myself, whoops, actually, if I was to give myself, let's say, you can see I'm now at 4 levels. It does the same thing. But as soon as I hit 5 levels, that function will no longer... Well, that's embarrassing. It might be, let's go ahead and do 6 levels. But then you can see now that function will no longer work. So the most levels you can have is 5. So it's, as I forgot to mention, these arguments are inclusive, and that slipped my mind for just a second. That's a little embarrassing. But anyways, so yeah, that's how that works, the level command. And then it's the exact opposite with the level minimum command, which to me is almost more useful. Of course, I have to be in creative mode. I think the level minimum command is a little more useful, just because if you were building an adventure map, you could use it to set up a shop or something where the players can trade their levels for, let's say, a diamond sword. And now you can see I have 6 levels, so the command block is lighting up because I have more than the minimum of 5 levels. But if I were to take away 2 levels, -2, the command will no longer function because I'm at level 4. And the minimum you can have is level 5. So let's go ahead and give myself 1 more. And now you can see it should work just fine. So that's how the level and level minimum arguments work. The score name, maximum score of the player. To do that, we have to create an objective in the scoreboard. So let's go ahead and create the objective. We'll just create a dummy objective, just for fun. So let's go ahead and go to scoreboard, objectives, and let's call it light. Whoops, I forgot. Tab autocomplete isn't quite as useful for the scoreboard anymore. It still is, just so you can see your different ones, but you kind of have to know those already. So you can go to the scoreboard video to learn more about that. And then we'll do that. So you can see I added the objective light. So let's go ahead and put that on the sidebar just for easy viewing. Sidebar lights. Boom. And so now let's look at how to use that within the command. So you can see score name would be the maximum score of the player. So if I get rid of that and I do score underscore light, remember capitalization is important. The capitalization has to match the capitalization of the objective. And I were to do, let's say 11, just for fun. As long as my score is less than 11, this block right here will light up when I walk into the radius. Now if my score goes above 11, scoreboard, players, add Trackmania 1, light. 11, like I said, it's inclusive, so the command should still work at this point. But if I was to add 1 more level, the command no longer functions, as you can see. However, if you only want something to function when the player's score is at or above a certain level, you can add this little min part to the argument. So if you add underscore min, it works precisely the opposite way. Now the function works as long as you're level 11 or above. But if you were to go below level 11, the command no longer works, or no longer responds to me because I'm below level 12. So that's how the score name and the score name min work. For team, it can actually check a player's team. So let's go ahead and add myself to a team. Let's get rid of that real quick. So let's add myself to the blue team. So scoreboard, teams, add blue. So now we joined the blue team. Well, we didn't join it yet, but we created the blue team. So let's go ahead and join the blue team. Scoreboard, teams, join, blue, me. So now I'm on the blue team. So you can see if I were to replace our score name with team equals blue, since I'm already on the blue team, the command is going to respond to me. However, if I were to leave the blue team, or be on any other team for that matter, scoreboard, teams, leave, blue, blue. Yeah, it keeps giving weird arguments. But anyways, you can see now that I'm no longer on the blue team, the command no longer responds to me. But, and here's the cool part, if you put an exclamation point in front of the team name, it checks only for players that are not on the blue team. So, as you can see, the command is functioning for me now. But if I actually join the blue team, scoreboard, teams, join, blue, me, the command won't respond to me. So the way you could use that is, let's say you have a PvP game. You could use that to make sure that the blue team, let's say, can't enter the red team's base or something like that. Or that maybe the blue team has a much higher score than everyone else, and you've written yourself some functions and a string of command blocks to test for that. And you could give everyone who's not on the blue team a bonus, or maybe you want to do something like that. So that's how team works. Name is actually checks for the name of the players. So the way you could use that, you could do name equals, then you could do whatever players you want, or whatever player you want the command to respond to. So since I am trick_man01, you can see the command will respond to me. And then you can use the same thing to check for players that are not the name of the player. You can put the exclamation point in front, and there's no real way for me to demonstrate this one working, or this one responding to me, I should say, because I am, like I said, trick_man01, so the command won't respond to me. And one cool way that I've found to use the name command is to build a door, let's say a piston door, that will only respond to the players. So let's show you that in action real quick. There's a repeater right there. Command block. Boom. Boom. Let's see. 56. Negative 31. 56. Negative 23. Sets block. I forgot my coordinates already. Isn't that silly? I think it was negative 31, 56, negative 23. Negative 31, 56, 23. Got it. Negative 31, 56, negative 23. And I believe the red zone block is 152 with data value of 0. Hold on, I'm doing this wrong. This first one should be actually a test for command at player with a name of, or let's go ahead and do a team. Team equals blue. So any player on the team would be able to get in my door when I'm done. Well, actually, let me, what was it? Negative 23, 56, 31. I forgot already again. I'm so bad. 31, 56, 20, 30, negative 32, 56, negative 24. So you want to test for a player within negative 31, 56, negative 24, and a radius of 2. Remember, your first 4 arguments, if your first 4 arguments can be coordinates, you don't have to put the x equals, y equals, z equals, r equals. The game knows that automatically. And then you want to do team equals blue, so you only want to respond to people in the blue team. 31, 56, 24. Let me just make sure I put that in right. 31. Should be 32. Well, let's go ahead and do negative 30 and negative 23, just because that's closer to the door. Actually, what we want to do is sandstone. Something like that. So then whenever we get a player close to there, we want a comparator output into our block. Whoops, that's not a comparator. That's a comparator. And on one side we want a torch. On the other side we want a repeater. On both sides we want command blocks. So we need to make sure we're putting our block in the right place, which is easier said than done. So let me grab the coordinates off camera, because sometimes this takes a little testing with the set block command, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, we are back. Sorry about that. It just still getting used to the set spawn command. It's not exactly putting blocks exactly where I think it should, and that may be just peg on my part. But anyways, you can see I've made myself a little door here that automatically responds when I walk near it. It'll open and then it'll close behind me. And if we go to the other side, you can actually see the way it works. When I get within a certain range, this sandstone block actually gets replaced with a redstone block, which depowers the torch and powers these pistons. And when I leave the area, it turns back into a sandstone block, which powers the torch and powers the pistons. So let's go ahead and look at the command I gave for that. So it's going to test for a player within one block of negative 29, 56, negative 24, who is on the blue team. So I have joined the blue team, so right now the command is responding to me. However, if I were to leave the blue team, So it removed players from the blue team. You can see the command is no longer responding to me. However, if we go back and look at what I was talking about again, if I were to show everyone except the blue team, the command would begin responding to me again. So that's, you can make yourself a nice little secret base door. And again, that set block command has really opened up a lot of stuff for the wireless redstone and much more compact circuits as far as command blocks are concerned. Previously, I would have needed to have the test for block somewhere around here so they could output the power and power these pistons, but now I can just replace that block with a redstone block and be done. So that video, I guess, is basically arguments in a nutshell. Again, we just really touched the basics. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this. I would encourage you to go ahead and experiment with some of it. I find a lot of times when it doesn't quite work the way I wanted to, it's more user error than anything. But there's so much we can do with this. I hope you guys find some really cool things, and I will see everybody next time. I hope you enjoyed my video. I had a lot of fun making it. I'm having a lot of fun with this series in general. I think in the next episode we're going to go ahead and cover data tags. And then I might have a mini-sode between now and then covering the new set block and test for block commands using command blocks. Well, the set block command, in general. And the test for block command, which is actually pretty cool too. Alright, so I will see everybody next time. Alright, bye bye now.